When it comes to food, every person has their own taste. Some like Big Macs, and others prefer fugu or fried fish. But even the most adventurous eaters usually stop and think thrice when it comes to bugs. And it's not hard to see why legs, wings, antennae, they don't exactly scream yum. But just in case you're one of those rare humans with a curious tongue and a fearless gut, here are the 15 tasty insects you can eat and trust us. Number 9 is a very sweet treat. Number 15. Tarantula. If spiders already ruin your day just by existing, this next part won't help. In Cambodia, people don't just run from tarantulas, they season, fry, and sell them. It's not a Bear Grylls season, just real-world street food. Fried tarantulas are rolled in garlic or sugar and served crispy like a nightmare appetizer. Locals genuinely enjoy them, and tourists line up to test their courage. Some say it tastes like a cross between crab and fear. Others just focus on not gagging. It's more than just a shock factor, though. These spiders actually kept people alive during one of Cambodia's darkest chapters under the Khmer Rouge. Now, this survival food has turned into a national dish. They're still sold today all over the country. And yes, the legs are part of the deal. Bite through the crunchy shell, and there's a soft, meat-like center waiting for you. If you're brave enough, that is. Some people scream at spiders, others snack on them. Life's funny like that. Number 14. Earthworms. There's something deeply wrong about seeing an earthworm on your plate instead of the sidewalk. But for a lot of people, that line's already been crossed. In southern Venezuela, the Yaquana people have been collecting, gutting, and cooking earthworms for generations. Boiled or smoked, they're sold and eaten like any other protein, just with more squirming in the prep stage. And despite how they look, these worms are loaded with nutritional value. Protein, iron, magnesium, zinc, copper, you name it. They're basically multivitamins that live underground. Their texture, somewhere between chewy and slippery. The flavor depends on how you cook them. Smoked worms are said to have a savory, meaty profile. Boiled ones are less popular. Still, they're reliable, sustainable, and everywhere. Not many people dream of chewing through something that wriggles. But when you've got mouths to feed and mud full of nutrients, the logic writes itself. Earthworms might not be appetizing, but they've earned their place on the survival menu. Number 13. Grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are basically the gym bros of the insect world, always jumping, never chilling, and packed with protein. These little tanks have so much nutritional value that people started grinding them into flour. Yup, cricket flour. You can find it in health food stores right next to the sad kale chips and overpriced almond butter. That said, nobody really wants to catch and clean their own. Too many legs, not enough hours in the day. Also, there's the whole toxic parasite thing. Ever heard of nematodes? Well, we say just one little thing. You don't want to. They're microscopic freeloaders that live inside wild grasshoppers, which is why most folks stick to prepped farmed ones. Despite all that, grasshoppers are probably the most socially accepted bug snack. You can deep fry them, roast them, dunk them in chili powder, whatever gets you through the bite. They're crunchy, earthy, and if you squint hard enough, they kind of resemble a spicy corn nut. A terrifying corn nut. But still, what do you think? Wanna try this delicacy? Number 12. Dragonflies. Out of all the bugs on this list, dragonflies feel the most unlikely. They're too fast, too pretty, too delicate. There's barely anything on them to chew. But if you're patient or starving, there's a way. In their nymph stage, dragonflies are much easier to catch. They hang out in water, move more slowly, and can be harvested with minimal effort without breaking legs. Once fully grown, they're practically uncatchable. Unless you've got ninja reflexes or zero shame, either works. Cook them lightly. Just a quick boil or fry to get rid of any lingering pond bacteria. Some people say they're crunchy and mild, others say they taste like crispy air. They are not exactly 5-star cuisine, but they are still edible. It's one of those foods you only try once just to say you did. Like licking a battery or eating kale. No one craves it, but it happens. So if you're ever at a survival camp or hanging out with someone who forages bugs for fun, dragonflies are on the table, technically. Number 11. Cicadas. These little hellish creatures don't just scream from trees like tiny megaphones, they also show up in ovens, skillets, and, believe it or not, dessert recipes. These bugs spend nearly 2 decades underground, feeding on roots and minding their own business, before surfacing to mate, die, and apparently be served with a garnish. They're arthropods, like shrimp and lobsters, so technically you've probably already eaten their close cousins. And they're shockingly versatile. Cicada quiche exists. Cicada chocolate cake. Cicada tacos. If there's a way to ruin a recipe, someone's tried it with cicadas. The texture's somewhere between soft-shell crab and regret. The flavor? Depends on the seasoning, obviously, but they've got a mild, nutty base that people seem to like. You can boil them, roast them, sauté them, just don't eat the ones covered in lawn chemicals. They're not for everyone, but they're here, and they're not leaving. If you've ever wanted to taste the sound of summer in bug form, this is your shot. Number 10. Giant water bug. Well, most normal people see a giant water bug and immediately reach for a shoe. In Thailand, someone's reaching for the dipping sauce. These big aquatic predators, known as toe biters for good reason, are a hit in Southeast Asia. Locals don't just eat them, they celebrate them. In Thai markets, you'll find them deep-fried and glistening, laid out like crunchy seafood. Their natural essence is even squeezed into sauces for a punchy, pungent flavor. So, what does it taste like? Well, most dudes say it's a wild combo of briny crab, scrambled egg, and black licorice. Yes, really. And yes, it's weird. But the texture, that's the secret. Slightly chewy, soft inside, and crispy out. Some folks eat them raw, and I honestly don't know whether that's bravery or chaos. Either way, the giant water bug isn't just food, it's a rite of passage. If you can handle one of these in your mouth without flinching, congratulations, you've unlocked next-level foodie status. And if you want to make some wild food vlogs, well, just book your ticket to SA. Number 9. Honey pot ants. If eating ants sounds disgusting, you're not alone on Earth. Most guys wouldn't go near them unless they live in Australia, where some folks treat them like candy. And weirdly enough, they kind of are. Much like bees, honeypot ants stuff themselves with nectar until their backs swell up like tiny grapes. They're not a different species or anything, they're just the colony's designated sugar balloons. Once full, they hang around underground, waiting to be tapped like little living honey jars. Their job is to regurgitate the nectar into the mouths of their fellow ants. It's lovely, right? Somehow that doesn't bother the native people of Australia or even parts of Mexico where they're considered a legitimate snack. Sweet, tangy, and chewy if you can get past the legs. Meanwhile, most of us are still opening a bag of Cheetos like it's a gourmet experience. Maybe it's time to rethink what qualifies as a treat, because apparently some people really can't resist a little honey mixed with dedication. Wanna try this nature's candy? Now let's talk about number 8. Stink bugs. Stink bugs have 2 reputations, one as crop-destroying pests, and the other as pungent little landmines you do not want to squish indoors. But in parts of Mexico, they've managed to cross over into the kitchen. They don't just sneak into your pantry, they become it. Ground into sauces, folded into salsas, or eaten as is, these bugs bring something strange to the table. No one can agree on the taste. Some say they taste like cinnamon. In fact, they taste much better. Others say it's like cleaning fluid. Well, both might be right. They're not just about flavor, though. Nutrient-rich and full of protein, they're a survival win. Despite their name, the smell doesn't stick once they're cooked. You won't be burping bug gas all afternoon. That's something. Still, there's something unshakably weird about willingly biting into something called a stink bug. It's the kind of move that guarantees you'll never be invited to a wine tasting again. But if you're after bold, bizarre, and oddly nutritious, you've found it. I won't lie, but from now on, I will just eat veggies. Number 7. Cockroach. Nobody asked for this one, but here it is. I don't know about you, but I just hate these roaches. But some people eat them. Not on a dare, not by accident, on purpose. It's apparently a thing in certain parts of China, where cockroaches are farmed like livestock, cleaned, cooked, and consumed without flinching. Some chefs say cockroaches are full of benefits because they've got insane immune systems. The logic goes, if you eat them, you'll absorb that strength. There's absolutely no science to back that up, but I'm not about to argue with a culture that's been doing it longer than my country's been around. Cooked or raw, dead or flailing. Some people just pop them in like popcorn. Others grind them into medicine for ulcers and respiratory issues. Either way, they've managed to become a weirdly practical protein source. Still, it's a hard pass for most people. That crunch, that smell, that antenna in your mouth moment, it's a commitment. But if you're bold enough, go ahead. Just maybe don't tell anyone until after dinner. Number 6. Termites. Termites are usually seen as pests. They ruin furniture, eat houses, and get sprayed on sight. But in parts of Africa, Asia, and South America, they're food. Real food. Not on a dare, not as a prank, just straight up nutrition. They're packed with protein, amino acids, and fats, which makes them valuable in areas where food isn't always guaranteed. Fried, roasted, or raw, they show up on plates more often than you'd think. Their oil content gives them a nutty flavor, which people claim is surprisingly decent. Not exciting, but not awful either. Kind of like someone dropped a peanut into a dusty corner. In some villages, they're collected in buckets during mating season when they swarm like flying popcorn. And yes, people just catch them mid-air and toss them into pans. It's one of those things that sounds unthinkable until you're hungry enough or curious enough to try it. After that, the idea of chocolate-covered termites almost makes sense. Number 5. Weaver ants. Some people toss croutons on their salad, others go rogue with walnuts or dried mango, but then there's a brave, very specific crowd that casually sprinkles weaver ants like they're lemon zest. No, seriously, these bright orange ants are considered a full-on flavor bomb in places like Thailand and Australia. They're not just crawling around for fun either. Their bodies pack this wild citrus tang that hits like a shot of lime, and chefs love using them in soups, salads, and yeah, sometimes even desserts. Their eggs, creamy little rice-shaped things that end up in omelets and stews like it's totally normal. If you're imagining ants marching across your tongue, calm down. Once they're cooked or not, they go from pest to pantry staple real quick. It's not for everyone, obviously. Most people see an ant and grab bug spray. But some folks see them and think, ooh, flavor profile, we're not judging. We're just saying, maybe start small, like one ant. Number 4. Lemon ants. There's something strange about biting into an ant and tasting lemon. Not chemical bitterness, not dirt, just pure citrus. That's what makes lemon ants such a surprise. Deep in Ecuador's forests, they live on trees and carry a sharp tang in their tiny bodies. Locals eat them fresh off the branches like nature's weird sour candy. So you don't need to cook. Just grab a twig, pop one in, and brace for the zing. They don't look like much, brown, small, totally forgettable, but once they hit your tongue, they bite back with flavor. Not a meal, not even a snack, but when you're deep in the jungle with nothing else around, they're a decent little boost. They've been eaten for centuries, mostly by survivalists and forest tribes who know where to find them. And while most people would rather starve than eat an ant, these might be the exception. Just don't expect them to fill your stomach, unless you plan on eating a few thousand. Life is all a lemon. Number 3. June bugs. June bugs are big. Let's say like really big, which means if you're into edible insects, you're getting maximum crunch for your chomp. These beefy beetles are eaten across parts of Asia, where they're cleaned, dried, frozen, and sold like trail mix from another dimension. People throw them on pizza. That's real. Imagine biting into a slice and hitting wings. There's a recipe floating around that treats them like bacon bits. Not sure if that's bold or blasphemy, but it exists. Nutritionally, they've got the goods: protein, calcium, and a solid crunch factor. Some say they taste earthy and mild, like a cross between roasted nuts and whatever's under your porch. Probably not something you'd serve at Thanksgiving, but it has a market. The weirdest part is how normalized it's becoming. You can order them online, vacuum-packed, gourmet-labeled, and legally edible. There's something very unsettling about that. But hey, if you've got an open mind and a strong stomach, this might be your weird little gateway snack. Number 2. Woodlice. Whoever first ate a woodlouse must have been incredibly bored or dangerously curious. We mean why these little armored bugs, better known as pill bugs or roly-polies, usually get flicked off porches, not tossed into boiling water. But here we are. Cook them right, and they taste a lot like shrimp. That's not a joke. They're crustaceans, after all, just ones that traded the sea for your garden. Boiling kills the bacteria, softens the shell, and makes them at least somewhat edible. They're not filling. No one's skipping dinner for a handful of woodlice. But they're rich in calcium and protein, which makes them oddly useful for anyone trying to survive on the weird stuff crawling around in the backyard. Most people would rather run them over with a lawnmower than eat them, but a few brave souls have turned them into snacks. Whether it's curiosity, necessity, or just plain chaos, woodlice has made it onto dinner tables. Barely. But still. Number 1. Coconut worms. If you thought escargot was pushing it, allow me to introduce the coconut worm. Fat, squishy, and absolutely alive when served. This wriggling little nightmare is considered a delicacy in Vietnam. And yes, that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. These guys are technically pests, known for burrowing into coconuts and wrecking the crop. But leave it to the Vietnamese to look a problem in the eye and decide, let's eat it. In some places, they're served raw. Yes, raw, wiggling around in a tiny dish of fish sauce, while the diner builds up the nerve. People say the flavor is buttery and sweet, kind of like crab if crab had no shell and was also alive. Each worm can cost $1, which sounds insane until you realize how serious people are about these things. Some love them, others gag at the thought. But hey, if you're going to spend $1 on something weird, you might as well let it stare back before you eat it. If you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon. And let us know which insects you love to eat.